What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. My name is Mundungus Creevy. I'm the host, alongside with my co-host Cameron Parker and Gage Madrid. Obviously, no Glenn. It seems like all the good stuff happens when Glenn doesn't show up, so he's not allowed to come back anymore because then we keep getting good stuff happening. How's it going?
Boo, Glenn.
Boo.
To be fair, though, nothing has gone on. Nothing has gone on, I guess, even when Glenn was here these last couple weeks. So,
all right, show's over. We're done.
And honestly, like, there was a large debate on whether or not there was going to be a show tonight because nothing happened. Literally nothing. And then, guess what? We'll get into that in a minute. If you have not gone to the MHRT Network and hit that subscribe button, please do so. Head on over there. We have a bunch of different shows. Hit the like, subscribe, thumbs up. And the join button to become a member. It's got different tiers. You can see what those are. Also, make sure you head on over to Broncos Syndicate, hosted by Gage Madrid, and do the same thing.
We are also live.
Where we are also live. So if you have not gone to Broncos Syndicate and like, subscribed, and thumbs up and joined, do that. And if you have not gone to the MHRT Network and done the same, do that. That's how that'll work.
That is exactly how that'll work.
What are we pointing at?
The hypothetical MHRT network that's over there.
Absolute booty cheeks.
All right, so we talk about how Denver's done absolutely nothing in free agency. We're all a little angry because nothing's happened. Boom! Denver trades for Jaylen Waddle. Something that we've been talking about, 3 years now?
2.
Like, oh, let's go get Jaylen Waddle. Oh, let's go get Jaylen Waddle. Hey, Jaylen Waddle's there. Hey, let's trade for Jaylen Waddle. There we go. Now we get the Waddler in the building.
Waddle.
It feels like this was the right time to get him, man.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said in 2025, over in that glorious month of November. I said when you look at it from the standpoint of the trade deadline, it was the first time the Waddle news ever became public with he and the Denver Broncos as far as interest. And I probably on the surface, because I know I made that argument about like wanting him and adding him to the team, it made a lot of sense to add him. Where it kind of does not make sense is, and this is why I tweeted it out the way I did, it's better to revisit it when you have him in the offseason where he can actually learn the full playbook of Sean Payton and everything else. So ideally, and now with the new regime, it makes all the sense in the world to try and revisit a trade. And lo and behold, the trade happens, and we are waddling everywhere as Bronco fans.
Indeed, man, indeed. And like I alluded to, this was just the right time for it. Denver had been talking about this at the trade deadline last year, like we had said, and this was just one of those moves where it felt like last year the Miami Dolphins regime wasn't willing to do it, so Denver tabled the discussions. The new regime comes in, and they're like, okay, sure, we'll go ahead and do it. You're offering us a nice package, and I think that Miami views this as they're not going to be competitive very much this year, and this just gives them more and more resources to rebuild. And for Denver, this is hopefully the big piece to put them over the hump and put them into Super Bowl contention.
Yeah. I mean, you have a bunch of people. So, okay. So let's talk about the trade first, and then we'll go into like reactions on that. So in order to get Jaylen Waddle, Denver traded Miami a first, a third, and then a fourth. Yes. And then Miami gave us Waddle and a fourth back. So we basically got rid of our first round pick, a third round pick, and then we moved up in the fourth.
It's essentially 2026 draft capital. All this involved.
And like the one thing that's annoying is like you have all these people saying, "Oh, well, we overpaid." Well, if you look at the first round pick, it was pick 30. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the draft and you look at the talent in the draft, there's not a big difference between the 30th overall pick and the 33rd overall pick, right? Like they're right at that same level. So essentially, yes, it was a first round pick, but we traded a second is basically what it is. talent-wise.
Yeah, it's basically a first and a third. That's the way that people should be looking at this. And frankly, the other way that it needs to be looked at is the other angle of this, which was essentially a Broncos trade that resulted in Sean Payton. Bradley Chubb was signed by the Miami Dolphins, and then the first round pick that got traded, from the Broncos to the Saints was essentially the pick of the Bradley Chubb movement. So it's just and that's all about this. Essentially, is like you are taking a first round flyer on a Jaylen Waddle, which is going to be your immediate impact type player, and everything that you could have asked for, as far as the offense and everything that you could have, needed for this offense. It's a slam dunk for everybody. It's just, I think that when you look at it as a whole, there's no player in this first round that was going to provide probably as much of an impact as Jaylen Waddle was, specifically from the standpoint offensively. He's going to end up being your wide receiver one on this football team, which you draft a player, you're basically be developing them, which you're stuck with what you had last year.
And to your previous point, all of this draft capital was 2026 draft capital, meaning that Denver didn't feel great about this year's draft.
Oh, yeah, good point. I like that.
Yeah.
But he's got Bill's internet. There we go. Yay!
Yay! So what I was saying was Denver didn't trade away any 2026 draft capital because they don't feel great about this 2026 draft class. They feel a lot better about the 2027 draft class moving forward. They feel like this is the class that can provide a lot of impact for them, so they didn't want to touch any future draft capital. This class, pretty much at all the positions where Denver has need, it's kind of like, okay, there's some okay players, but not great players. So this was clearly Denver saying, all right, we're going to get a much bigger impact by trading this draft capital for Jaylen Waddle this year.
And in totality, when you look at the draft in general, it's not the greatest class, but also when you look at some of the positions, they're still relatively of need for this team. So running back, tight end, linebacker, maybe even defensive line, those are moves and positions that you can actually get at that second round pick and even later if you ever so much need to. So like the idea is that you could still get those moves fortified for depth and everything else. And the other side of it too is this is a Super Bowl roster, whether you look at this team or not, and the moves that they made. And as frustrating as it was, we talked about it. They have a really good roster. There was just still some glaring holes that needed to be addressed. And one of them was in fact a wide receiver one, which they ended up making that move and making the very aggressive move to acquire a Jaylen Waddle. And the other side of this too, which is so logical, is that there was no way you can actually get a running back one, a wide receiver one, and a tight end one in one free agency or off season. There's just no logical way you could be able to pull a deal like that off. What you can do though is get a running back or two, a tight end or two in this upcoming draft, maybe even a linebacker or two, and really upgrade your team to where you can actually, have this longevity plan of a player like a Kyle Lewis, a Jake Galday, those types of players where they can be able to be that heir apparent when Alex Singleton actually finally hangs up his cleats and his nuts. And then the Broncos can move on to, the idea of like a Jake Galday, et cetera.
Yeah. And Keith and Original K911, I am not ignoring your questions. I promise I'm saving them. And as we go through this whole process, I'll pull those up and we'll answer your questions. So we talk about bringing in Jaylen Waddle. People are wondering what the contract looks like, what the cap hit looks like. So for right now, the way that we're looking at it, he still has 3 years left on his contract, I think. And right now, Yeah, right now it's like 52.8 million, which comes down to about 17.5 million a year. So not horrible as far as contracts go. When you look at salary cap, and this is why I think that they're going to end up restructuring or re-signing Waddle to a new contract. When you look at the cap, so 2026, Waddle's cap hit is 4.9 million.
Essentially 5.
Whereas Sutton's is 13.9. So 18.8 for our top two. You go into 2027 and Sutton's is 28.4 and Waddle's is 27. So you're looking about $55.5 million just between those two. So I think they're going to end up restructuring or re-signing Waddle to a new contract. And then we'll talk about Courtland Sutton after that.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at it just from that vantage point, it makes total sense. I mean, Waddle also fits exactly the timeline of what the Broncos have needed in this wide receiver room, which was a wide receiver one that's also not a diva. So everything that you could have asked for a wide receiver is what Waddle is, right? Like, and so contractually, him possibly even restructuring the way he fits in the locker room is exactly a fit like a Courtland Sutton, to where Courtland Sutton could frankly restructure again. Waddle probably will restructure again and probably even get extended at some point and then finish his career out as a Denver Bronco. So it's just like there are some definite ways where the Broncos can move forward of clearing up some money and getting a lot of financial flexibility going forward.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's what's so brilliant about this, is because you can go out and get a David Njoku. You can go out and get somebody who can really make a difference at one of these other positions of weakness, and it's not going to cripple you against the cap. So Miami eating all this dead money really is going to benefit Denver a lot this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is all. So the funny part of this whole thing is everyone's like, oh, well, it was an even trade. It was pretty good. Have you guys seen the Dolphins dead money hit this year? Now with everybody that's moved or everybody that's traded,
it's
$175 million. That's their dead money hit.
Yeah. Well, and so the thing is that is actually kind of funny. It's actually still like this for the Dolphins side of things. So they moved on from Tua, so they needed cap relief anyway, and the best thing for them was moving off of Minka and then moving off of Jaylen Waddle, one of their other large contracts. So that's why this Waddle stuff for me, even going into this offseason, was always the name I circled for the ideal move that they could have afforded themselves, meaning the Broncos, because they were always wanting Jaylen Waddle for like 2 years now. We need to say that they have been wanting Jaylen Waddle for 2 years now. Now, a lot of that probably hasn't been surfaced to the major public, but the Broncos have wanted him for well over 2 years. And so it finally came to fruition. And then for the Dolphins side of things, you get 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. Now, I think the thing that probably, and I don't really know this, is that maybe one of the holdups of this was maybe the Broncos never wanted to forego their 2027 first-round pick. Maybe that was on the table. Is that like the Dolphins were hoping to get maybe like a first-round pick of 2027, not of 2026. And so the fact that, that was on the table and you still get 2 first-round picks for the Dolphins on top of, you end up with 7 picks in the top 120, if you will, is an absurd number for the Miami Dolphins. So they really still made out like a bandit to where they can really build out that future, really build out that cap flexibility for the rookie contracts. It makes total sense for the Dolphins to rebuild that roster up with a bunch of rookies, of course, under $170 million cap hit with the Florida tax. We should probably phrase it $175 million with the with Florida no state tax, if you will.
Yeah. So one of the questions that was asked by Keith was, Waddle's here. Is Mims on the way out? What would you get for Marvin Mims? So we kind of talked about this a little bit in the green room, right? We're talking about like the Waddle trade affects who the most. And there's been a lot of names thrown out, like Troy Franklin's the one I see everywhere, right? Everybody's talking Troy Franklin. There's also Marvin Mims. Honestly, and again, like we just talked about it, it affects Cortland the most, right? Because when you look at the future of Cortland Sutton on this team, he's not our number one anymore, right? So that makes him a little bit more expendable, especially with Pat Bryant behind him, right? So for me, it's Cortland Sutton. But I don't honestly think that anybody that was on the team last year, except for Michael Bandy, is in any trouble of not being on the team again this year, even after the trade.
So I think you have to look at this from a short-term perspective as well as a long-term perspective. Long-term, yeah, this is probably going to affect Cortland Sutton because he's probably not going to be able to be here with Waddle having his cap hit at $27 million. Sutton's cap hit is going to be, what, $28 million in 2027? Is that correct?
Yeah.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably not going to be able to have both of them under that high of a cap hit. So you're probably going to be moving on from Sutton after this year. And I saw a comment in the chat. There's a $16 million out on Cortland Sutton's deal after this year. And I imagine they are going to exercise said out. Pat Bryant is going to be your long-term X wide receiver. He's going to be here in the mix long-term. Obviously, Sutton's going to be here for 2026. You've got Jaylen Waddle. You got little Jordan Humphrey, who you cannot forget about because of what he brings as a blocker in the screen game as well as the run game. Marvin Mims brings immense value on special teams. He's a Pro Bowl return specialist. I only think Denver is going to have 5 active receivers on game day. That leaves one man out, and that's Troy Franklin. I like Franklin. He is an ascending player. He's somebody who showed a lot of promise last year and a lot of development, especially in the route running department. In his rookie year, his route running wasn't his greatest strength. Last year, it became a real great strength of his. His hands could stand to be a little bit more reliable, but hopefully that's the next step that he takes in his development. If Denver only has 5 receivers active on game day, and Troy Franklin's role is a little bit redundant with that of Marvin Mims, perhaps you do move on from him because he's not going to be an X wide receiver. He's not going to fill Cortland Sutton's role long term. He's going to either be a Z wide receiver, which is now Jaylen Waddle's role, or he's going to be a slot wide receiver. And Denver has guys like Pat Bryant. They have other guys as well that fill that role. So I don't know, man. At the end of the day, I just think that if you can get some draft capital for Troy Franklin, if you could get a 4th round pick from a team like the Tennessee Titans, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack kind of says, nice pickup, McDudungus. Yeah, we'll go with that. Cameron and Gabe, the cost. So we talked about a little bit earlier. It's the 1st round pick, a 3rd round pick, and they swap force. But with it being the 30th pick in the 1st, it's more like a 2nd round pick. And then they moved up. When they swapped force, they moved up into the 4th. So yeah. I like the value. I think it's worth it. But
yeah, I think it's a good value. I think when you look at the roster construction overall, I'm not expecting anything to be done with that wide receiver room. Obviously, from the obvious, which was the Michael Bandy and stuff. But I just think that, you know, and frankly, even little Jordan Humphrey, for as much as it's praised, if you will, for little Jordan Humphrey, they did move on from him. Like they did move on from him, and obviously did bring him back. So it's somewhat the Michael Bandy conversation. So it's just like they can easily move off of him, bring him in, bring him back, etc. So it's just like little Jordan Humphrey is an interesting one. But I will say though, from the vantage point of the roster, I'm expecting 6 wide receivers just because I don't think that they're going to be touched. And this is all about Bo. This is all about Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton for the future is probably the ideal one that you would look for with Pat Bryant probably, taking over for him at some point down the line. That's really the only roster movement that I see, kind of taking shape, if you will. Because I just think that, again, Troy Franklin, collegiate roommate of Bo Nix, you really don't want to mess up with the chemistry of this team. And frankly, Waddle makes this team better, makes that room better to where Troy Franklin, for as much as he did develop, one of the biggest things that he can work on is the catch point. the drops, everything else. So this makes everybody in the room better. And I'm not expecting much movement there. We also were talking about this on March 17th. We're also talking about this March 17th. So I think that when you possibly are talking here in September, or when we start having this conversation about roster cut down dates, there's going to be probably some surprising cuts here and there. But I think when you do look at the wide receiver room, it's going to be a little bit of the same, if you will. So I just think that when you look at the wide receiver, I'm expecting probably at most 6 wide receivers.
Yeah, and so right now the updated wide receiver room is Jaylen Waddle, Cortland Sutton, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Michael Bandy. I think we can all agree that Michael Bandy, practice squad, are gone at this point.
He could come
back into this math for me.
He could come back for all we know. They could cut him tomorrow, and then by sometime in July, he shows up on the 53-man roster.
He's like the Most Sislak meme where he's throwing Barney out of the bar, and somehow, some way, Barney keeps finding his way back in.
Yeah.
But to kind of wrap that whole conversation up, in my personal opinion, I think Mims is more at danger of being moved than Troy Franklin. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
He was a Pro Bowl special teams last year. I don't think was as good as the year before. We love him on offense because it seems like he's got the surest hands, and it seems like every time he gets the ball, he's making a big play. But the coaches never seem to want to put him in. So it almost makes you wonder if now his offensive input is going to be completely gone, and he's just going to be on special teams.
Yeah, you wonder. And the one thing I mentioned in the green room too is like something to monitor here. There were a lot of reasons. There were a lot of reasons, obviously, why the Broncos had this happen. But Bo Nix, the last couple of years, has led the league, or has been top 5 in terms of passing attempts. He was first in terms of passing attempts in 2025, and then he was 6th, I believe, in 2024. That's a lot of pass attempts. So is this just the nature of Sean and just the offense that he's had and moving away from Drew Brees, that he really feels the necessity for his offense is a bit of an air raid? And we know, I hate to phrase it this way, but also Davis Webb, who comes from the Mike Leach system of Texas Tech, is a bit of an air raid system. I would not be out of the realm of possibility to at least have the conversation that maybe this is going to be more of a true, in air quotes, quarterback situation where Bo is going to be distributing the ball to every single player that is responsible in that playmaker room. Evan Ingram, we all know he's going to be getting some touches. Troy Franklin, maybe see some touches here. Obviously, Waddle's going to be the number 1 target. Cortland Sutton, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we see that again, where Bo is in the top 5 again of passing attempts, not just because the running game sucks. It's just because there are so many mouths to feed, and the best way you can really feed your playmakers is through the wide receiver room, the tight end room, and even RJ Harvey in the passing game.
Yeah, Chuck Hartman music. We have been all over this for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the most sense, right? You have a struggling tight end room. Move Lil Jordan Humphrey to tight end, right? He's the best blocking receiver on the team.
Yeah, I mean that's been my idea 2 years ago, as far as Lil Jordan Humphrey. So I'm not hating it.
He would have to put on some weight because, as BK pointed out in the chat, he is only 225. He's not blocking elite edge rushers at 225, but if he could put on maybe 25 pounds, sure, why not?
How big is Ingram?
He is like 240-ish. He's small. Yeah. He's small for a tight end.
He's small but stocky.
Yes. So, again, he's a big wide receiver. That's kind of the best way to look at Evan Ingram, to be perfectly honest. But if you were to move on from Marvin Mims, you're basically moving on from 2 players. You're moving on from Marvin Mims, the receiver, and you're moving on from Marvin Mims, the return specialist. And it's not so easy to find a Pro Bowl level return specialist That's why I feel like he's going to be here regardless.
Yeah. Well, and I would almost argue too, like you can even extend him just based off of specialty. That's one point we made too. You could just extend him based on his special teams value. So I would, and he's in a contract extension window, so something to monitor there. And I also don't think he's going to cost a lot because you haven't really featured him, so he's really not going to cost a great deal. I saw one other question too, as far as like, are the Broncos done as far as trades, or do they do anything else as far as
this
trades?
one right here, I started for you.
Yeah.
Do you think the Broncos will make another trade for another key position of need, or do you think they will trade up in the draft? There's two things with this. One, right, and I'll pass it to you guys. One, the Broncos cap room right now is about $18 million, right? You're going to need to set aside 10 for the draft, maybe,
which they rarely use, by the way. We need a preference.
And then I think if you go off of the last 2 years, they're going to have 5 in reserve like they normally do. So there's 15. So that gives you about 3 to play with, right? Plus, now your draft capital is going to be like a bunch of 7th round picks, a couple 4th round picks. I mean, you could make a trade, but would it be worth it at that point with the kind of player you're going to get?
There is one that when we talk about dart throw, there is one that I've been preaching about for at least 2 years now.
Justin Fields.
No, that I would love to see them kind of as far as like taking a chance on. And that's Luke Musgrave. I would love to see them take a chance on a Luke Musgrave. And I don't think he's going to cost all that much draft capital wise. So I would love to see the Broncos maybe take a little bit of a chance and swing on a guy like on a Luke Musgrave and, get him in the room, because you do need a tight end. And, obviously that would say that they feel Luke Musgrave might be a little bit better than some of the players that are in the draft too. But like, take a shot. I don't think he's going to cost all that much. So take a shot on a Luke Musgrave.
You want a long-term upgrade over Evan Ingram? Luke Musgrave could be that dude, man. I would be so down for that. He's young. He's athletic. Not exactly inline blocking tight end, but that's okay. He can be that move tight end. He can be that dude, man. I would be so down for Luke Musgrave. And there's a little bit of a connection with Denver. Bill Musgrave used to be a coach here, and now Luke Musgrave is his nephew, and now Bill Musgrave, I think he's in Cleveland or something like that. I can't remember where he is, but he does have some ties to Denver.
Yeah. So one of the other questions that were asked, I think it was by Keith. I might have to go up and take a look, but they were asking if Riley Moss was also someone that we could trade potentially for someone else. I'm not going to say no, but I at this point, I don't know why you would, unless you're going to get somebody better than Riley Moss. And at this point, I don't know that you can.
Well, I would just say ideally, when you look probably logically and everything about the room, the one player you probably could use to move up in the draft isn't a Troy Franklin. It's Riley Moss. That's probably the player you could use to move up in the draft, get a 3rd round pick, maybe even a 2nd round pick for a guy like a Riley Moss. Cornerback is a very needed position for a lot of teams in the National Football League. So I can see a team be a little bit of aggressive, fork over a 3rd, and then obviously extend him a little bit later. So I can absolutely see that be on the table, especially too when you look at it from the standpoint of the Broncos cornerback room. Clearly, it seems like they do view Barron in some capacity long-term for this football team. We don't know what that plan is specifically. I think if you're reading kind of the tea leaves, something would probably tell you they probably view it maybe at safety for a 3rd safety, at least right now. Because something you want to be, remembrance of is Sean Payton compared him to Malcolm Jenkins. And one thing we know about Malcolm Jenkins is he played corner, he played safety for Sean Payton. So he's a very versatile weapon. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. I do love Riley Moss still. I do love Riley Moss, but in the return of capital and the depth of the position, would not rule anything out on that.
Yeah, for me, it's one of those situations where everybody, for the most part, is available at the right price. But it would take a significant amount of draft capital to pry Riley Moss away from Denver. I've been one of the most staunch Riley Moss defenders on Broncos Syndicate. I believe Riley Moss is a really good player. And the fact that he was one of the most highly rated players in terms of getting incentives on their deal last year, that means that he was doing something right.
Yes.
I understand that fans are going to get frustrated with him getting beat at the top of his routes and maybe getting a little bit grabby at times. It's going to happen when you're one of the most targeted corners in the league playing alongside the best corner in the game. Right now, I don't think the Broncos trust they don't trust Jahdae Barron and they don't trust Chris Abrams-Draine as long-term replacements on the outside for Riley Moss. Maybe after another year of development, one of those guys steps up. But you think about Jahdae Barron, he could be more of that big nickel safety type player that you were alluding to, Cam. That fits more of a long-term vision than being an outside corner, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that, and we talked about this through the season. Like, obviously, the big misses, the big penalties were kind of aggravating. But I think that Riley Moss is underappreciated for just how good he is.
Well, I mean, there's definitely some moments where, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, the penalties happened, and he has to cut on that. Like, there's no denying that. Like, when you think of probably his biggest issues overall in the season, it probably wasn't so much, when you kind of look at the season as a whole, it probably wasn't so much of like maybe giving up the big plays. It was giving up the big play of the pass interference penalty. That's really where it kind of came down to. So if you can cut down on the idea of being a little bit grabby and hold wide receivers at times, that's really where I think you can really look at it from the standpoint of Riley Moss. Now, if that doesn't happen and that doesn't actually work out as far as he's continuing to still give some of that plays up, you can consistently get a chance to wonder. Because, I mean, again, if we're looking at people that were big, if you will, liabilities, it was Riley Moss, but it was also Alex Singleton. And there is no person who was a bigger liability on that defense than Alex Singleton. And, because everybody wants to talk about Riley Moss and Alex Singleton, but there was no bigger liability on that defense than Alex Singleton.
And yet the team decides to double down on that liability and bring him back on an extension and a raise. Make it make sense.
Yeah. The Broncos need to re-sign Jaquan McMillan, didn't we? Or was that McLaughlin?
No,
go ahead.
No, he's talking about like extension. They tendered him.
Yes.
Oh, okay, tendered. Okay. And then we re-signed McLaughlin.
Yes. They brought Jaleel back on a one-year deal, and in essence, Jaquan McMillan is on a one-year deal as well. I do believe that Denver wants to work something out long-term because he brings that juice and tenacity on defense that nobody else in that DB room brings outside of Talanoa Hufanga. You can use McMillan in so many creative ways. He's an excellent blitzer from the nickel position. He brings so much value to this defense, and I think Denver wants to reward him for that, and they don't want to let a really, really good player get out the building.
Agreed.
And the long-term vision has changed when it comes to Jaquan McMillan. I believe they drafted Jahdae Barron with the full intention of him being the starting nickel. But Jaquan McMillan comes in last season, and he plays his ass off, man. He has an incredible training camp. He has an incredible preseason, and it carries over into the regular season to the point where they just couldn't take him off the field, and now we're talking extension.
Exactly.
And that's why I said I'd be very upset if Denver drafted a safety in the first round. But I don't have to worry about that anymore. We're going to have a first-round pick, so it doesn't matter.
No.
So one of the other questions was A.J. Brown, because A.J. Brown and the Eagles are not really getting along. And there was a debate online on who would have been the better fit, Waddle or A.J. Brown. And in my personal opinion, A.J. Brown is more of your big catch guy, whereas Waddle is more of your yards after catch guy. And this offense is based around yak instead of big plays. And we already have Cortland Sutton and Pat Bryant. Who are your guys that are going to go up and get those big catches? Another one in A.J. Brown isn't really going to make a difference, and you're spending a whole lot more money on A.J. Brown than you are on Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah. Well, and I was kind of coming around on the idea that A.J. Brown was actually a fit here. They were his personality stuff was a little bit more of stuff that was a result of what was on the field with his quarterback and obviously the offensive coordinator. That's probably where I would just say it was a bit more of a frustrating side of things. But as I alluded to when it comes to, Jaylen Waddle and A.J. Brown from a personality side of things, there was no wide receiver in the last 2 years of players that were available for trade that could have been on this team and impacted more than Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle was the perfect addition. And frankly, this is something that's probably another talking point that we did mention in the green room, Gage, is that what I love about this is it's Sean Payton going against his norm, which is the big physical wide receiver like an A.J. Brown, to where now you have the player like a Waddle to go along with a Cortland Sutton. So I really do think that now, for what we were talking about the room earlier, and it's one of the reasons why I feel like they're not going to do anything to the room, is that every single wide receiver has a complementary piece role for that room going forward.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Sean finally realized that it's enough of the redundancy. You've got to bring in a Z wide receiver, and that's exactly what Jaylen Waddle is. I did hear through some inside sources that A.J. Brown was never a realistic option for Denver. They weren't heavily in on those conversations. It was always Jaylen Waddle. From the beginning of the process, Jaylen Waddle was their number one target at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. Part of me wonders too if the Broncos looked at this on a whole. And granted, I don't know much when it comes to the East Coast stuff. I wonder if the Broncos also succumb to the fact of being aggressive to force the New England Patriots to not get A.J. Brown. I'm telling you right now, and maybe it's the orange colored glasses. I'm wearing an orange hat. I'm a Broncos fan, but I will just say this. Just the simple point of the Broncos getting Jaylen Waddle is a much better move than overpaying for Romeo Doubs. I will say it again. He's a much better fit than overpaying for Romeo Doubs. And so much so that if the Patriots don't end up getting A.J. Brown, that is actually a very much of a downgrade of an offseason, knowing the fact that the Broncos upgraded the room and team with just one move, and that one move was trading for Jaylen Waddle. The Patriots are now a worse team than the Denver Broncos as we sit here on March 17th, 2026.
Well, and even if they trade for A.J. Brown, they will still be a worse team than the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I was going to say Jaylen Waddle's better than Romeo Doubs anyways. I mean, you look at Romeo Doubs and compare him to a current Broncos player, it's Troy Franklin. And he's got more drops than Troy Franklin does. So I am 1,000 million% in on Jaylen Waddle. Yeah, you tell him. Okay, I just saw one that I wanted to pull up here, right here. Could there be a scenario where the Broncos could trade up to get the first pick in the second round, provided that a specific player is not taken in the first round? I don't think they'll need to.
I mean, but even then, I don't think there's a scenario. It would require a little bit. It would require probably close to first round capital. For them to actually get the first pick of the second round, and frankly, it would require a player. And I think that's why we're spouting off players like a Troy Franklin, even a Riley Moss. Frankly, even it's not happening. But a Jaquan McMillan, they put a second round tender on Jaquan McMillan. But it's just like, that's basically what it would take, is just like a player that they value a lot, that they have to be swooed by a trade for the player that they're taking is going to essentially come right in and be that impact player. Now, anything's possible, but I just don't see it.
Mhm.
And I think one of the underrated values of Jaylen Waddle is you look at the Broncos offense from last year, we struggled a lot against zone coverage. That is
I know where you're going
Jaylen
with this.
Waddle's bread and butter
Yep.
is winning against zone coverage.
Yep. That's a Z receiver, man. A guy who can be a savvy route runner and find those open holes against zone coverage. A guy who can spam the middle of the field. That's what Denver hasn't had for quite a while, man. I'd argue the last time that Denver had somebody who truly filled that role at a high level was Emmanuel Sanders.
I mean, and guess who the Broncos had in the prime years of Demaryius Thomas? Emmanuel Sanders. Guess who happened to have Emmanuel Sanders also? Sean Payton. So it just so happens that Jaylen Waddle, who comes right in and basically is Emmanuel Sanders times 10, comes in and is a Denver Bronco. I mean, he is a seamless fit for everything that they would have wanted on this offense. He takes the top off the defense, which he can teach, and he can teach up on Troy Franklin, who can also take the top off of a defense if he can be able to, instead of body catching the ball, use his hands a little bit more. So I would very much be interested, in terms of that offense going forward, because it is very much of the possibility that the Bo Nix MVP agenda will be loud in 2026.
Okay, so I'm seeing a whole lot in the comments, and I've been saving them. But I'm seeing a whole lot of people talk about trading Troy Franklin. I'm seeing Jarrett Stidham. I'm seeing Riley Moss. I'm seeing – who else am I seeing? Did I say Jarrett Stidham already?
Yes.
They're also talking about Jonathan Cooper. I just don't know, like, why you would want to trade some of these guys. Like, why would you want to trade Jonathan Cooper?
Of all the players, I will say this now that kudos to Rich A. He mentioned this. Jarrett Stidham is the one player I can actually see be traded for trade capital this year. He's really the only player that I can see. I was talking to actually someone who's close to Zach Wilson who said that the Broncos and Zach Wilson were talking this offseason. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Broncos moved off.
Wilson?
No. Wilson's a free agent. So like Stidham in essence gets traded to whoever, Miami, that'd be hysterical. But like,
who would they even throw to?
I don't know.
Miami.
but it's just like, I could see them moving off of Stidham and getting some trade capital, maybe for capital this year. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised by it. And then you can replace him with a Zach Wilson, because it's pretty obvious that Zach Wilson loved being in that room as a member of the Denver Broncos for just only 1 year. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised by it.
Well, and is Stidham's value higher or lower after the AFC Championship game? I'm saying lower.
I'm saying the same personally.
I mean, I think it's lower, but the team that probably would have been the most interested in trading for Jarrett Stidham is no longer in the quarterback market, and that's the New York Jets. With Darren Muji there was a familiarity with Stidham and what he brought to the table. I don't know if you would trade Jarrett Stidham unless it's for him to go compete for a starting job. And at this point in time, you've got better quarterbacks who you can bring in as free agents like Kirk Cousins. They could be maybe that bridge quarterback long term. If you are going to trade Jarrett Stidham, it's probably going to happen post-draft. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to keep up with these comments. Give me a second.
It's a lot of them.
A lot of comments,
I know, right?
Man.
There we go. If this is the final year of Brandon Jones, should we try to bring back Justin Simmons on a vet minimum deal? Listen, we all would love to have Justin Simmons back on the Broncos. I don't think it's going to happen. I think at this point, he's probably just going to retire. I mean, has he? So then my question would then be, after stating that I don't think Justin Simmons comes back to the Broncos, does he have the resume to make the Hall of Fame? No. And if not, does he have the resume to make the Ring of Fame?
Ring of Fame, yes. Not Hall of Fame. I think he was on a trajectory with the Broncos to possibly be on that, but unfortunately, it can never come to fruition. I being a little bit close to the situation, I will admittedly say that the Broncos are never bringing Justin Simmons back. And I know the reason why Rich A is saying neither to both Ring of Fame and Hall of Fame is simply he's a Justin Simmons hater and has been from day one.
Always.
So
although the question then is, why does his resume make him a Ring of Fame?
Right. Because again, when you look at it, you alluded to it, Mike, he seems pretty content. He seems pretty content with life after football. Right now, when you see the stuff he's posted on Instagram, it seems pretty evident that he's moved on, and the Broncos made, the choice. I think Justin wants to be a part of the Denver Broncos. Unfortunately, the Broncos they can't really make it work, if you will, and they just feel like it's best to move on going forward. But I agree with that last comment. The Russ contract did, in fact, cost us losing Justin Simmons.
Yep. I see a lot of comments about Mariota. Didn't he re-sign with the Commanders? He's back with them, isn't he? Okay. I thought so. Oh, man, I'm trying to keep up here. Hold on. Okay. Jack wants us to rate the trade, and we'll kind of close the Jaylen Waddle trade out with this. What grade would you give the trade for the Broncos or the Dolphins?
If it's I can't speak for the Dolphins because I feel like that's more of like an incomplete. But probably on the surface, I would just say probably a B+ to an A- for the Dolphins. I do mean that, because I think that's a pretty fair trade for the Dolphins. As far as the Broncos is concerned, if you give it anything less than an A, you're an idiot. Because like this is something this team has needed as far as a need, and goes back to everything that we said. If you're giving them a B+, you're an idiot, and I do mean that. Like this is definitely an A.
It has to be an A, because you're not going to find greater value in the draft, and you didn't give up significant enough draft capital where it's going to bite you long term. If this doesn't work out, then oh well, at the end of the day, you can eat some cap hit, and you can move on from the player. But I think that this is a really solid move that's going to benefit the Broncos for the next several years. Waddle's only 28 years old. Great move. Got to give it an A.
Yeah.
Run after catch. I was like, his rack is fantastic. What are you talking
He's also inside the
Run
top
after
10.
catch.
He's also inside the top 10 in yards per route run too. Like he's exactly what the Broncos have needed for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yep.
My internet has been absolute
booty cheeks
tonight.
Yep.
Got to throw that out when I can. All right.
It's never this bad. It's been terrible tonight.
It happens. I mean, I don't see how you don't give this an A+ as far as for the Broncos getting Jaylen Waddle. Like, I know people think that because you look at it and you're like, oh, we traded 3 picks and one was a first round. Yeah, and if you do the math, it's like it looks like it's high, but it's really not. I mean, you're getting more value. I mean, okay, so if you look at it in a really stupid way, right? You're basically drafting Jaylen Waddle, number 30 in the 2026 draft.
Right.
That's basically what you just did. Right. And is there any player in the draft that's going to automatically start off better than Jaylen Waddle would? No. Like, Jaylen Waddle is going to be the best player outside of, like, PS2 on your team, right? Like, there's every potential for him to be that guy. And you're just not going to get that in this draft. And it's nothing against the guys that are in the draft, but this is a really, really weak draft class.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely understand Jeff Bryant's point in the sense of like it can be interpreted as, desperation, but like this is the move that you want. This is the move that you also want to make when you're in a Super Bowl window. So that's the other side of this, is that the Broncos are in a Super Bowl window, and in order for you to push all your chips in, it's basically has to end up being a win now move. And one of the best win now moves you can frankly ever make is getting Jaylen Waddle as a part of your as a part of your football team. So I definitely understand, the notion of, maybe why it can be a little bit aggressive or, and stuff, but maybe, and as far as happening last year, I probably was definitely pumping the table, if you will, for it to happen. But I think ideally, when you think of the offseason, this allows Waddle to really learn that Peyton offense and allows to really be integrated with the offense and really be focalized, if you will, for wide receiver one. If they acquired him last year, one of the things that we said, if you will, is unfortunately he would have been learning Sean Payton's offense on the fly, and that would have been a really hard one.
Yeah, I think that there's one big loser in this trade, and that's Malik Willis, right? Like, you get paid this absorbent amount of money to go to Miami. Number one, you're playing behind that offensive line, which is the reason why Tua is not really playing anymore. And two, you're down Tyreek Hill. Now you're down Jaylen Waddle. You don't have Darren Waller anymore at tight end. Who are you throwing the ball to? Like, the only thing you can do is hand it off to Achane and pray to God you get it there fast enough before you get your head taken off.
Tutu Atwell about to have a 100-catch season, baby.
Right? I mean, they've got who's the Washington guy?
I think they got a couple of Washingtons. They got Taj Malik, I believe.
I think it's Malik. He's also the returner.
Yeah. Well, and the funniest thing is, like, when you look at it from the landscape of the AFC East, who had a worse offseason? The New York Jets or actually Malik Willis? Like, that's just because, like,
he did get a nice chunk of change. So
no, but
but he's basically a sacrificial lamb at this point, right? Like, that's all he is.
It's Abraham and Jacob, but I don't know. It's just like, it's one where, like, you have the Jets who are just spending money like a drunken sailor this offseason. And then you have, Malik Willis, who, smart signing. They needed something. Clearly, they needed someone with connections to the Green Bay front office that got hired into Miami. Made total sense in the, in everything. But, however, it would really help to have Jaylen Waddle as your wide receiver one. So I can understand probably some of the Miami frustration of moving off of Jaylen Waddle. And then also on top of that, rumblings that Devon Achane might also be in the block.
Boy.
So it's just like, boy, there's no real loser probably of free agency as a whole than Malik Willis.
Well, and this is the thing, right? Like, the saying is true. You build through the draft. That doesn't mean that you draft 15 guys and all of them are like day one starters. You have to build the guys up to be the starters. So even if Miami goes and trades Devon Achane, right, and they get 2 or 3 draft picks out of him, you're still not looking at doing anything for 2 years at least. You got to build these guys up and let them get better. Like, I understand wanting to rebuild, but good God, like, you're sacrificing so many people to do that, like, physically and on your roster.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a absolute dumpster fire over there, man. That organization is incompetent, and until they prove otherwise, they're going to be down there with the New York Jets of the world as just an organization that we should never take seriously.
Is it Jeff Ross that still owns that team?
Stephen Ross, I think his name is.
Yeah,
I don't know. Something Ross.
Yeah.
What I will say that I find kind of funny is that Chris Greer was the general manager with the Dolphins, and Chris Greer and George Payton are relatively close. So I find it so funny that they could not consummate a deal with Greer, when he was general manager, and all of a sudden, George Payton pulls, a Jeff Carson moment from draft day where he goes after this new GM and says, "Hey, let's go after him. He's the new GM in the building. Let's go after him and see what we could be able to, to get from there." And sure enough, they end up, helping out. But again, like, in totality, I really like the haul for the Dolphins. What I will say is so funny, though, in a draft that everybody thinks is putrid or not as good, they have 7 picks, as we said, in like the top 120 versus having 7 picks in the top 120 of 2027. So I think that's the part of it that I think is very like, okay. So clearly the Dolphins of all teams in their scouting love the 2026 draft.
So
Yeah,
what? Maybe they're going to have like a 3 out of 7 hit rate on those picks.
I kind of feel like the Dolphins, because it's a new GM for the Dolphins, right?
Yes, it is.
So I kind of feel like they took the old GM from the Dallas Mavericks. He changed his name and went to Miami.
To be fair,
it's kind of what I feel like right now.
to be fair, that the Dolphins move is a little bit better than moving off of Luka Doncic and then obviously turning that around and drafting Cooper Flagg. This is not this isn't exactly that, though, to be fair.
Wait, so who gets to wear 17 between Little Jordan Humphrey and Waddle?
It'll be
positive that Waddle can pay LJH enough to get number 17.
It will be Waddle. Because, I mean, like, for one, Little Jordan Humphrey wore 84 at one point with the Broncos. It's going to be Waddle at 17.
Yeah.
I guess one thing on the cuff would be nice is if Ingram, got rid of like 1 and Waddle wore 1. But I digress.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
Now with this acquisition, who wins the AFC West? That was never in doubt. It's going to be Denver again. I don't know why we're having this conversation.
Yep.
The running back situation is another concerning position. Is there anyone left via free agency, possible trade target, or will it be addressed in the draft? I'm assuming it will be addressed in the draft. But to be honest, the running back position isn't like the highest priority for me right now. Like, yes, J.K. Dobbins has injury history, right? The injury he got last year was a freak accident because of a hip drop tackle that was never called, never fined, nothing. But if you look at J.K. Dobbins, he was a top 5 running back last year. Like, if J.K. Dobbins stays healthy, I am not concerned about running back at all. I do think we draft one, but I'm more concerned about linebacker or tight end than I am running back.
I mean, listen, I'm still quite concerned about both of those positions. I'm concerned about J.K. Dobbins getting injured, man. You can't not be concerned about that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully R.J. Harvey develops, but I am definitely looking at this running back class because there are some really good players available that could definitely raise the ceiling of that room. Mike Washington.
I'll take that.
Second round.
Well, and that was one of the things we talked about was when we were asked, like, do you think we'll trade up into the draft to get one? I don't think we'll need to. I think Washington will drop that far.
I mean, even if he doesn't quite get down to the bottom of the second, like, you could probably move up into like the 20s of the second and maybe get him there. That's possible. Okay. But yeah, I just think that you could overall raise the ceiling of that room. Coleman is definitely another possibility to do that as well. I've seen Jadarian Price. People have been talking about him more and more. I've seen a couple of mocks sending him to Denver. So I'm looking definitely towards the draft to upgrade the running back position. Tight end, I'm still looking at David Njoku, crossing my fingers, try to manifest it. It's got to happen.
Did he leave Baltimore? Because he was in Baltimore.
He was just visiting.
Yeah, I think
he left, right?
Hasn't signed as far as we know. I don't know if he's still there or not, but as of this moment, he hasn't signed, or else the chat would be absolutely blowing up.
Well, that's good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't one of those they're not letting him leave the building kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that from the side of things, we can play back any sort of scenario and right or wrong or whatever. Dobbins has never had a healthy season, but when he was healthy, whenever he's had a healthy season or the point of the midway point, he's a top 5 running back. All of that's accurate. The problem is it's status quo. that's the problem. The running back room is still status quo, and they really need to upgrade that room from the ceiling side of things. And that's why the best way to do it is through the draft. There really isn't anyone in the running back room for free agency or even the trade market that really excites me. Like, really excites me. And look, that's coming from a person that's been allegedly accused of wanting everyone. And I'm saying no to players like a Joe Mixon. I'm saying no to players like an Alvin Kamara. I'm saying no to those players. So like I think that when you have that, I mean, I would much rather draft guys like a Mike Washington, like an Emmett Johnson, a Jonah Coleman, some of the top players that you can get at some point. So it is definitely a concern. Linebackers a concern. Even defensive line, just from a depth side of things. Go out and get someone at the defensive line in the second round, or maybe even a linebacker in the second round. So, like, there's areas that even a tight end. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised by that either.
When did offensive line become an issue?
I think it's just talking about depth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, who did we lose?
You are going to have some guys. You are going to have some guys getting free agency eventually. You are going to have some guys who are going to be, getting up there in age, like Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey. It's just stuff to think about.
Yeah. Maybe not like an issue, but it's just something that needs to be addressed.
Sure.
Man, there's a lot of people in the chat. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about the Chiefs just a little bit, because we did just see the Chiefs brought in Justin Fields, because I'm assuming they're going to want a quarterback to start for probably the first 3-4 games, maybe 5, because Mahomes isn't going to be ready yet. And they just lost Gardner Minshew to Bills. Where'd he go?
He went to the Cardinals.
Cardinals. Okay. So you got Justin Fields there, but they also just lost Hollywood Brown. He ended up going to the Eagles. So that didn't make him any better.
That's why I'm saying.
Aside from Kenneth Walker, have they gotten any better anywhere else?
No. And that's why me and Gage have been really preaching from the rooftops about why, even if Mahomes is ready or not, that roster is in dire need of holes on cornerback, offensive line, even in some more of the secondary. They absolutely have so much more holes that paying that amount of money to Kenneth Walker was a very bad business move for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I wouldn't expect anything less, because one, their stadium is actually a trash can, and they are so stinking poor that they feel like moving off of said trash can and trying to imitate the Denver Broncos by getting a new stadium the same year that they actually lose the AFC West. So it makes total sense for a very putrid organization to be operating at the lower totem pole of free agency moves and everything as far as desperate.
Yeah.
Oh, and did we mention that they doubled down and gave $15 million to Travis Kelce, who is old and washed up and doesn't mentally have the commitment to the game anymore? What are we doing?
Well, and you know that Taylor Swift is the one that talked him back into going to football.
Why?
No, he came out and said in an interview he wasn't going to play,
really?
And Taylor was like, "No, you should go play." And so he went back to play. Like, he was convinced by his fiance, to go back to playing football. He didn't want to play.
Yeah.
And honestly, I respect Travis Kelce and everything he's done. But at some point, if you're not mentally wanting to go back to playing football, just don't come back. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he wanted me to do that or not, so I didn't.
Yeah, that's one that shouldn't fly.
Kind of a douche canoe, so
yeah, sorry, that's just one word that I can't live with.
No, you're good. It came from there, so I was going to let you deal with it if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. as far as what Denver's going to do in the draft, I don't know. I would have assumed they would have gone linebacker in the first. That was my guess. At this point, you have to think that linebacker, running back, and tight end are still positions they're going to be looking for in the draft. Do I know who they're going to go after? No. I know who I want them to go after, but I've been wrong every single year, so I don't know why it really matters what I say.
I will say this. This is probably one of the years where I would not mind where they go when it comes to running back or linebacker or tight end. I really don't care where they go for linebacker or tight end. There is so many players that I love getting down and going down to the Senior Bowl that I absolutely love when it comes to linebacker. Just a few, obviously, is Jake Galday, Kyle Lewis. I saw him be mentioned in the chat. You know, he's a safety converted to linebacker. We know how well that transitions to the NFL. So I would not be the least bit disappointed at all with Kyle Lewis, being here. Obviously, Anthony Hill has been a really popular one for Broncos country. Jacob Rodriguez is obviously the fan favorite for the second round. I don't think he's going to be there. I actually do think there was probably some legitimacy to him being in the first round and of consideration for pick 30. I mean, tight end goes up and down between, Michael Trigg to Eli Stowers to Sam Roush to Max Clare to Martin Klein to one of my favorites, obviously, which is Nate Borkacher, that you can get a little bit later. So, I mean, it is very deep at tight end to where I wouldn't even be the least bit surprised if they double dipped at said positions of running back, tight end, linebacker. Josiah Trotter is another one at linebacker.
Sorry, what about Caleb Lohner? I completely forgot about him.
Practice squad, he'll be on the futures contract / practice squad again this year.
Okay. How do you think RJ Harvey will perform in year 2?
I mean, you drafted the guy in the second round, so you're kind of hoping that he's going to develop in the areas where he struggled last year. His vision down the middle was probably the biggest area where he struggled. So hopefully he develops, but I think at his current age, it's kind of more of a hope than an expectation.
I will say this, though. If there is any, there's a few, but if there's any people that have been victors when it comes to this Broncos offense and the addition of Jaylen Waddle, it's RJ Harvey in the passing game. I think this is just a nightmare situation when it comes to, the defenses and looking at it from the standpoint of RJ Harvey. He is going to be an absolute weapon when it comes to the passing game now with Jaylen Waddle.
Waddle. Looking at Denver opportunity to be in the Super Bowl. Bad coaching, injuries is part of the game. Bad coaching. All right. So last one.
All caps too.
I know, right? Would you guys pick up Calais Campbell? No.
Yeah.
Cam Jordan, definitely.
I would do Calais Campbell
over Cam Jordan.
I'd rather have Calais than Cam, honestly.
Really?
I mean, what's so wild is if you go look at his total sack number, career-wise, it's wild how much.
Yeah, but isn't he 47 years old right now?
And he's still producing at a rather high level for as old as he is, and he's from Colorado. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if
that's a knock against him.
So I wouldn't be not Colorado, the University of Colorado, you dork.
Both. Anybody from Colorado sucks.
Fuck you.
But I will
spit my dew out. Don't do that.
but I will say I would absolutely kick the tires on Calais Campbell. I mean,
me too.
I mean, heck, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised depth-wise and contractually if they signed Calais Campbell to a 1-year deal and Cam Jordan to a 1-year deal. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised with that or upset.
I just think that Calais makes more sense as an interior defensive lineman than Cam Jordan. Jordan's more of a 4-3 edge rusher. Calais can play on the interior in this base 3-4. It just makes more sense to me. Plus, he's from Denver.
Calais was my best friend in junior high. Glenn, I know how old Calais is, and I know how old you are, and that's not possible. I'm assuming you're talking about a different Calais. All right. If the offense takes off, is Webb the future successor to Peyton, or is he gone after next year to coach someone else? My guess is that he's gone within the next 2 years.
I would say the set too, as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just picking up. His tires are white walls. Shut up, Glenn. Fly the plane and go away. Wow. We have weed. What do you have? Cheap
Cornfields.
Cheap cost of living. I mean, it is what it is.
Barren little cities.
Listen, Gage, I'll compare my mortgage to your rent any day.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that.
What are your guys' record predictions?
I'm thinking the floor.
Do we want to, or do we want to save that one for another episode?
Well, I think their floor is 11-6.
0-17, baby. Woo! They suck.
I mean, I was going to go with 12 wins. I know that they have a more difficult schedule, but I mean, looking over it, I still think they get 12 wins.
That's what I'm saying. Their floor is 11-6.
Yeah, I agree. Floor 11-6. Realistically, probably somewhere in that 12-5 area.
If anybody has them at 10-7, check yourself at the door, because
Bill
10-7.
I've seen 8-9.
10-7 is not going to get them.
I've seen 3-14. Like, people are stupid.
Mm-hmm. No, my chat, man, can get ridiculous sometimes. I got people in my comments that are like, "Oh, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to go 7-10, blah, 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 blah." And it's like, Sean Payton has never had a double-digit losing season in his entire coaching career. He sure as hell ain't starting now with this roster.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, that was the year before, wasn't it? The first Russell Wilson year. That was Hackett, right?
Yeah, that was Hackett.
Okay. Jeez.
So long ago, Mike doesn't even remember.
I seen someone say 4-13. People.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
3-14. When does Bill make a prediction? I know.
I mean, come on, man. Like, Bill, it's just the ramblings of a crazy old man. So you can't really take that seriously.
All right. Is there anything that I forgot? Any big moves that we didn't cover? Anything from the AFC West that's a big move that we didn't hit on?
No. I mean, frankly, argumentative sake, the trade of Jaylen Waddle is the biggest news of the entire AFC West.
All right, so to close this thing out, we'll go over how many draft picks we have left. We have number 64 in round 2 in no paper. I've got it on my phone this time. Number 64, round 2. Round 4, number 108. Round 4, number 111. That's from the Dolphins. Round 5, number 170. Round 7, number 246. Round 7, 256. And round 7, 257. So 2 comp picks. And a lot, like the round 2 guys, that's like where we got Benito and Mims, and like,
yep.
If we can nail that round 2 pick, we're golden.
Yep.
I mean, we've kind of been second round merchants these past few years, not having first round picks. So this is very familiar territory for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expecting any more contract restructures?
I will say if we get a little bit more contract restructures.
Who's left?
I mean, maybe Hufanga, Surtain, like I don't know.
McGlinchey.
Yeah, but didn't Surtain just resign?
Well, they can do that. That's sometimes like people can do that. Miners did that this year. Like Miners was Miners recently just signed a deal. So
listen, you can make fun of Nebraska all you want, but my internet's better than Gage's, so eat it.
My internet's only bad because I have a shitty old computer and I have to route it through my phone because the Wi-Fi card's broken. That's the only reason. My internet in general is actually pretty good.
Sounds like a Colorado problem.
If there is any other restructures, though, that means there's another move or more that is actually coming. That is quite large.
Oh, they're saying the Giants Broncos game is on NFL Network right now.
Yep.
Ooh,
yay.
Fun.
Ooh, I'll just go back and watch it. All right. So I think that's going to about do it. It was awesome not having Glenn here on the show. So, Glenn, I appreciate you not being here. It's so much better when you're not. They're still on 2G in Nebraska. I have 5G. Thank you. All right. Oh, I appreciate every single person that joined us in the chat. The chat was crazy tonight. I loved it. It's always great to hear your guys' opinion. Make sure you head over to what?
It's a normal closet, not a water closet. Thank you.
Bathroom in his house. I mean, yeah. Dial-up internet. I do not dial-up internet. All right, make sure you head on over to the MHRT Network. Hit that like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit that join button. There's different tiers on there, different levels. I'll tell you what those are. Make sure you also head over to Broncos Syndicate if you've not already. Hit the like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, and hit the join button to see the levels that you can get for being a member. The MHRT Network has shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the neighborhood on Avalanche playoff games or Broncos games. One of those shows that we have is on Wednesdays, mainly Broncos, hosted by Cameron Parker. So make sure you check that out on Wednesday nights. It's a great show. Richie is in the chat, and he hosts the Wild Wild West, which is right before mainly Broncos on Wednesday. So check that out as well. And that covers all teams in the AFC West, the Stupid Chargers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Broncos. Good times had by all. Again, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We are very excited that we have Jaylen Waddle here on the Broncos. We can waddle our way into the Super Bowls. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out.